Hey folks, so in this video we're going to be introducing the idea of ethics, meaning the study of morality. For us it really means studying people's moral beliefs and behaviors. So the first thing we're going to do is have a general introduction into some kind of common terms for philosophy and then introduce some scenarios to get you guys thinking about some of the issues that may arise. So let's start with actually a very broad idea, which is the idea of a community. So taking a look at this slide, we have kind of this picture of London from space, right? And it's night, and all we see, right, is little dots everywhere, right? Little specks of light. Well, maybe what we get, right, is this sense of, oh, hey, they're all congregating in the middle here, right? Somehow people are coming together. And maybe if you think even, in more general, right, if you were to look at kind of the Earth, at night from the sky, right, would you always see, right, these clustering of lights, right? People come together. The reason for that, right, is that, well, what this forms, right, is this notion of a community, right? People coming together. And maybe there's some sort of a common goal. Now, why would you do that? Well, a simple thing, right, is, well, hey, well, what's the alternative? The alternative, right, is you as an individual, right? Imagine you're off in the wilderness. How difficult is it for you to do something like get electricity, right, or get internet access? If you were on your own, it might be hard for you to obtain those things. All of a sudden, you have to be an expert in all these different things, right? You can even think of, what about, access to things like vehicles, right, or access to things like food, right? All of these, right, somehow it's better if we have some sort of a notion of specialization, right? And that's kind of what a community can enable, right? So all of a sudden we have different members of a community which specialize in different things, right? And provide their skill set, right, what they produce to the community at large. The idea being, right, is that everybody somehow can benefit from that. Now, of course, being part of a community, there is some sort of sense that people are expected to act or behave in a certain way, right? Something that can kind of maintain the sense, to maintain the cohesion of a community. So in general, right, we might say that everybody in the community, right, has some sort of a core values that are shared. So for example, here on the slides, right, we have life, happiness, the ability to accomplish goals, right? So these are all things, right, that members of the community may want. Now, if we think about how these members of the community act in the context of the community, they may kind of have they may act in two different ways. One is they may act kind of from a selfish point of view. So this is the notion of, oh, hey, I have somebody that's a member of a community, and they're going to act in a way that maybe furthers their aims, right? The stuff that's up top, but maybe it's at the cost of somebody else's aims. So this is a selfish point of view. Their point of view is to say, okay, we can take the ethical point of view. In this case, right, people, right, they're trying to fulfill their aims, right, but they're doing it in such a way, right, that they're respecting other people, right, other members of that community, and their values that they have. So those are kind of our two viewpoints, right? You can be selfish, or you can be ethical. So let's now define a couple of terms. The first is the notion of society, and this is really kind of coming from this notion of a community. But rather than thinking of a community as being just people in a specific town or somewhere, right? A society is more generic. So the basic idea of a society is to say we have some association of people, right, that are all under some common system of rules. Now, this is actually a very general definition. So it would be fair to say, for example, we have the SER401 community, SER401 society, right? So all of you guys are working together, right? You have kind of this overall, there's expectations that are set for you because you're in this course, right? You need to do these certain things, right? And you're all kind of working towards having some goal, right? You all want to make a good project, you all want to complete the course, you all want to get your degrees. So that, right, is kind of, you guys are all kind of have this shared goal, right? So you guys actually count yourselves as a society. So jump back to the slide real quick, right? There's also a bullet point here just to make the remark that, oh, hey, a society, right, should be about advancing the good of the members that it contains, right? So hopefully, right, the idea, right, is that you should have kind of this win-win going on, right, where you're moving forward the members of the group. The second thing here, right, the second term to introduce is the idea of morality. So for morality, basically we'll define that as being the rule is the set of the expected conduct, right, for the members of a society, right? Define what people should do or what they should not do. And generally this makes up some sort of a moral system. Last thing here, right, is ethics, right? So we already mentioned that term once before. Here, right, will be a little bit more specific. So let's say, right, that the ethics for us, right, is going to be the rational examination of morality, right? Morality, again, being some moral system. And we're going to evaluate people's behavior, right, or their decision making, right, against this particular moral system to judge whether or not an action, right, or decision is moral or not moral. The book that these slides come from actually gives an overall analogy to relate morality to ethics, and that's what's shown here. So take a look at this picture. We can first start by looking at the bottom half. So the bottom half has this town, right? And this town has various roads going through it. The idea being is that that road system as a whole represents a moral system, right? Or some sense of morality. Now, if we were to observe this from up high, right, not necessarily one of those balloons, we could basically look at this road system and get a sense, first of all, well, are people staying on the roads or are they veering off it, right? So basically say, okay, are people acting morally or are they not? Okay, so this is one thing we get. Now, above there, right in the diagram, we have these little things, these little balloons, right? And each of them are labeled as, ethical theory 1, 2, 3. The idea is this. We will have basically different ideas or different ways to, to look at and to understand moral systems, right? We'll have different perspectives, right? So we're going to actually look at a number of ethical theories, right? Which basically give us ways to look at maybe choices and try to decide, is this ethical, right? Is it good to make this choice or is it not? And all these different ethical systems, right? They'll look at things kind of a different way, right? They'll look at decisions a different way, and they may kind of have some different disagreement. The idea, right, is we just want to have different perspectives. Initially, we want to have different perspectives to be able to judge, kind of a decision, right? One thing, of course, to keep in mind is that these different ethical theories may give us different results, right? But that's fine, right? Initially, we want is a starting place, right? We want a way to look at things and basically do compare and contrast. And so we'll go through several of those ethical theories in the sections we'll be doing in the future. So of course you may be asking yourself, why study ethics? Well, I guess the number one point right here, right, hopefully it should be an obvious one to everybody. We want to decide what is kind of the best thing to do, right? So when we're making a choice and we're maybe asked to do something, right, we want a way to explain or to argue or to think that what I'm doing, right, is maybe the best choice, right? This is what I should be doing, right? We want some way to say that. The second thing, right, that's kind of more applicable to, I guess, to you guys, to us, right, is simply this idea, right, that we still live in a time of firsts, right? So, I mean, maybe, right, if you look at, certainly, right, there's plenty of philosophy books out there, right? If you have some quantity, right, should you, do X, Y, Z, right? Maybe somebody's written about, somebody's thought about, they have an argument for why it's, a good or a bad thing to do. But for us, right, we need to have some sense of how to maybe make those arguments on our own, right? So, right, it's not that long ago, right, there was, the first person, to send email, right, or the first person to download files, right? We have kind of new technology, right, that enables us to do new things. Well, if no one's ever done these things before, right, how are we able to judge if we're using these, new piece of technology in a way that is good or bad, right, that is appropriate? We want to have that understanding, right, for new things. We might not have, conventional common wisdom, right, that can tell us, oh, hey, it's frowned upon to do this, right? This is not a good thing to do, right? We don't really have that, right? For the new behaviors that technology enables. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is give you guys some stuff for discussion. So here I have basically the questions listed. So we're going to be doing something similar to other weeks, where basically I have some stuff for you guys to think about. So what I have here is basically a scenario, right, that describes some stuff happening, and I want you guys to basically think about it, or start to think about it kind of from an ethical perspective. So let me read this. This is coming straight from the book. This is from Quinn, Ethics, 7th edition, 2017. I'm going to read this kind of verbatim from his book, and then I'll talk about these questions in a second. So first of all, again, right, just kind of think through this. So we'll go for this scenario 1. Alexis, a gifted high school student, wants to become a doctor. Because she comes from a poor family, she will need a scholarship in order to attend college. Some of her classes require students to do extra research projects in order to get an A. Her high school has a few older PCs, but there are always long lines of students waiting to use them during the school day. After school, she usually works at a part-time job to help support her family. One evening, Alexis visits the library of a private college a few miles from her family's apartment, and she finds plenty of unused PCs connected to the internet. She surreptitiously looks over the shoulder of another student to learn a valid login/password combination. Alexis returns to the library several times a week, and by using its PCs and printers, she effectively completes the extra research projects, graduates from high school with straight A's, and gets a full ride scholarship to attend a prestigious university. And so there, right, we have basically this example, right, of somebody using technology to solve a problem, right? And in that, right, she kind of had to make a choice of, oh, she wants to do this, right? Because if there's some outcome she wants, right? She wants to get a scholarship. So I'm going to put this actually as text in a kind of a side-by-side assignment, the write-up. So if you want to review it, you can go there. But given that, right, and you can think about that story for a little bit, try to answer these questions, right? So the first one here is, for example, did Alexis do anything wrong, right? Then, who benefited from Alexis' course of action? Who was hurt, right? Was there an unfair advantage? And a few other things here. So these are going to be for you guys to think about. Later on, right, we'll have a kind of either you can go to either a live discussion session, right, or submit a write-up online. So think through these, right. So this is our first scenario. Right now, right, we're not talking about we're not doing any ethical theories, right. We'll kind of introduce that later. First, I want you guys to just kind of think about this, in kind of I guess an ad hoc sense, right. What do you think of this right now? So this is scenario one. There's also scenario two, which I'll cover in a second. For kind of the discussion, right, you should pick one of them to look at. So scenario two. So this one's about an ISP, or an ISP and basically email blacklists. So let me again read this. So again, this is coming from Quinn's 2007 book on ethics. Okay, I'll read this pretty much verbatim. An organization dedicated to reducing spam tries to get internet service providers in an East Asian country to stop the spammers by protecting their email servers. When this effort is unsuccessful, the anti-spam organization puts the addresses of these ISPs on its blacklist. Many ISPs in the United States consult the blacklist and refuse to accept email from the blacklisted ISPs. This action has two results. First, the amount of spam received by the typical email user in the United States drops by 25%. Second, tens of thousands of innocent computer users in the East Asian country are unable to send email to friends and business associates in the United States. Okay, so here we have an example, right, of people basically trying to stop a misuse of technology, right? So, normally, right, email hopefully is for, point-to-point communication, but then there's this thing where, oh, hey, some people, send out, thousands of spam email, to try and, trick you into maybe giving them a login or try to sell you something. So this is our scenario. So here, right, we have some slightly different questions. So, for example, right, did the anti-spam organization do anything wrong? The ISPs that refuse to accept email from the blacklisted ISPs do anything wrong? Who benefited from the organization's action? Who was hurt? And a few more. So again, right, these are just kind of thinking questions for you to look at and try to break down the scenario a little bit and identify, who is doing what, right, and what is the consequences of their actions, right? And then is it perhaps, appropriate or not? So pick one of these two scenarios, spend some time thinking about it, and then either we'll discuss it live or you'll write it up and turn it into us at a later date. So our last final note here. So we're going to be talking about ethics. One kind of overall thing, right, is to think in terms of we're going to be doing this, we want to do this systematically, right? We want to basically a way to look at arguments for whether something is ethical or not and be able to judge them. So, okay, actually I'll come back to that in 1 second. Another point here, right, is kind of our scope. So for us, when we're talking about ethics, what we really care about, first of all, is that, there's some sort of decision or action that's occurring that's voluntary, right? So somebody is making a choice to do something. So if you think back to those two scenarios we just talked about, there was a choice, right? In terms of, how do we want to deal with the spam emails, right? The decision was made, okay, we're going to blacklist all of these IPs, right? Or the other one, right, is the student made the decision that she would, get a password from somebody and use it to, use another school's resources. There was kind of a decision that was made there that was voluntary, right? Somebody could either do something or they could do some sort of alternative, right? That's what we care about because there was a decision that happened. Is it something that we're going to basically, judge to be moral or not, right? Just to be good or not. The second thing here, right, is we're going to list to limit ourselves, right, to moral choices, right, or choices that matter, I suppose. So, I mean, you could have, a voluntary choice of, oh, do I want to, buy a laptop that is silver or black, right? I have a choice there. Well, that doesn't really, it's not really of interest to us, right? Because that's not really a moral dilemma, right? That's not really a moral choice. It's just kind of arbitrary, right? It doesn't impact anybody else in your community or in your society. So we won't really, talk about that stuff because it doesn't really apply. All right, so last note here is that when we go through these ethical theories, we'll cover a few of them, right? And some of them will basically be, some of them will be kind of, I'll do air quotes here, right? Workable versus not workable. You can picture that in your head, me doing air quotes. So the idea being is that some theories basically give a very strong way to support what they say about a decision, right? So what we care about, right, are those, right? Basically, what we want, right, is a way to say, okay, hey, for this particular decision, right, I judge it to be moral because it, because there's some reasoning. X implies Y implies Z, right? There's some chain of reasoning that shows that this thing is actually, this is a good choice, right? We want something, some way to show reasoning, right, and that your reasoning, right, leads you to, oh, hey, this theory says X, Y, Z, right? You can kind of have a way to put things together. We want basically the ability to say that, okay, if I have somebody who doesn't think that I'm right, again, as air quotes here, I'm right, I have a way to explain, why it is I'm saying this, or I'm supposed to be able to go to my ethical theory and have some sort of reasoning, right, that implies, or that gives me, that I can then go and say, okay, for this scenario, based on this theory, this is what I judge it to be, right? Is this a good thing or a bad thing that happened, right? And then display all my reasoning to somebody else so that they can judge for themselves, they have the right answer or not, right? Can they follow what I follow, what I'm saying? Okay, so that's it for our overall introduction. In future videos, what we'll start to do is go over specific ethical theories.